Ireland hosting Wales in one of the last Rugby World Cup warm-up games before the Rugby World Cup. It's a pretty big one when you look at these lineups. I will put both of them in the description so you guys can have a look, but these are some pretty first-class looking teams, especially when you consider last week when they played. Ireland got that 22-17 victory over there in Cardiff. There were a lot of... You always hate to call it a B team, but at least there was a fair bit of rotation with some big guns sitting out. Let's just put it that way. This week, a lot of big names are back, and that's going to be exciting for us as the fans to watch. There's plenty to play for. I think if Wales win by 15, then they can go back to world number 1. If Ireland win, they can go number 1. Doesn't matter by what margin they win by. So Wales dropped from 1st to 4th, and Ireland are up in 2nd. The All Blacks are back in 1st. So it's all on the go with the world rankings. And if you saw my video on potential tie-breaking situations, there's a very minuscule chance that world rankings may actually come down to some tie-breaking. So anyway, we'll see what happens. In terms of the lineups, you look at this Irish side. The fact that Conor Murray and Johnny Sexton are back at 9 and 10 is kind of shooting off the page at me, because that's an exciting thing to see how these guys go after a bit of a layoff. I mean, Conor Murray played in the game before last, and he ended up getting a bit of a whack and having to come off, but he's back now. Sexton took a knock many weeks ago now, but is actually back in the Irish jersey, which is very good to see. Aki and Henshaw are in the midfield, so Garry Ringrose is on the bench for this one. I guess he's covering a whole bunch of positions. Jordan Larmour and Keith Earls are back on the wings, and it's good to see Earls back as well. I think he's been nursing a wee bit of an injury, so he's kind of one of your key guys who can make something from nothing. Jordan Larmour could definitely use a good game. There's a fair few people critical of his selection, saying he potentially hadn't done enough in recent times, especially with Addison not getting selected as well. But hey, that is what it is. He's an exciting player, and hopefully get some time with ball in hand. Rob Kearney is back at 15, so see how that ever-reliable guy goes and fielding all that stuff at back play. Front row, Healy is back after he had that ankle issue a few weeks ago, so that's very good news for Ireland. Rory best captains the side. He's been a guy under pressure as well with the line-out in particular, and Tadhg Furlong, so that's a full-strength front row, which is as much as anyone can like scrums. I'm excited to watch them have a go. James Ryan and Jean Kleyn, that's the second row. Kleyn will have the microscope put on him, especially with Devon Toner missing out on selection, so people will be seeing if that's kind of justified in what is his third game for Ireland. CJ Stander has moved from 8 to 6. Josh van der Flier is in at 7, and Jack Conan is in at 8. So yeah, McGrath, Carty on the bench alongside Ringrose, as I mentioned, Iain, Henderson, Rhys, Ruddock, Andrew Porter, David Kilcoyne, and Sean Cronin. So the lineup is definitely going to be one to watch. If it doesn't go well, then all that talk about it will continue. But it's still only a warm-up game, but yeah, you'd still like to be getting it right, ideally, at this point. For Wales, again, a few changes and some big names back. Some guys, Warren Gatland had talked about needing a few more minutes after not having all that much game time. I think he called out Elliot D for that in his World Cup selection, so sure enough, he has been picked to start at hooker. Wyn Jones and Thomas Francis alongside him. So how that battle goes up against that Irish front row is really, really going to be key, because as much as that Irish lineout has been under pressure, likewise the Welsh scrum hasn't looked flash. I mean, it's not looked terrible, but it's been under the pump a wee bit. I think it did win the odd penalty, but I think conceded probably more than it won in the last few games. Jake Ball, Alan Wyn-Jones in the second row. Wainwright, Justin Tipperick. Tipperick is a good guy to have along. Excited to see how he goes at the breakdown. And Moriarty at number 8. So, yeah, Moriarty's another one that people have got their eyes on, saying he's no Taulupe Faletau. Very different player, but he still adds a lot of value, and again, is a player that I like to see play. Thomas Williams, I think, is another one of those guys that needed a run because he hasn't played, at least he hasn't started for a wee while. Rhys Patchell, another one. He only had that kind of 40 minutes off the bench in that last game, in which he played really well, so we'll see if he can pick up on that form. Hadleigh, Parks and Jonathan Davies, that's a pretty good Welsh midfield. We've seen them do plenty of fine work in the past. George North and Josh Adams on the wings, and Leigh Halfpenny, another guy probably in need of some minutes. He will be there shoring things up at number 15. On the bench, Dan Bigger, Liam Williams, Gareth Davis, Josh Navidi, Adam Baird, Dylan Lewis, Nicky Smith, and Ken Owens. So yeah, it is going to be an interesting one to watch. Last week, 17-22 to Ireland over in Cardiff, like I said. But the last time they played in Dublin, it was 37-27 to Ireland. But if you look back a wee bit further to the 2015 Rugby World Cup warm-up games, they played in Cardiff and Ireland won. Then they played in Dublin. I forget which one was first, but they played in Dublin and the Welsh won. So they kind of both won away from home. Ireland have already won the away game this time. Will Wales be able to win the away game for this return leg? Will be an interesting one. Last time in that Rugby World Cup game, it was 16-10 to Wales. The bookies have got this one being pretty close. 5 points Ireland picked as favourites. Rugby Forecast, the algorithm, has Ireland by 1 point better, saying Ireland by 6. I guess it's that home advantage. But yeah, man, two very strong looking teams. I'm pretty pumped to see this game. I believe it is on in the middle of the night here in New Zealand, so I'll do my normal trick of waking up at about 5 before my kids get up and watching the game, hopefully in a bit of peace. And just shutting myself off from the world so I don't get spoiled as to the result. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on this one. How do you think it will go? Again, please no injuries. We want everyone fit and rearing to go for the Rugby World Cup. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.